So where were we? I came out to make a video about how we were staying alert. But all these people had different ideas, you know? So, in the context of staying alert, what we're really being asked to do is obviously not to stay alert and watchful, like I was saying before, like when I was spinning the meaning of stay alert back to front and saying that we're not being an alert and knowledgeable citizenry because we're not keeping an eye on the government. The government is obviously wanting us to keep an eye on each other and to police each other. They're using a thing called nudge theory, which is written by a propaganda architect called Cass Sunstein. It's a book, he co-authored it, and it's a theory in which you put the law out and then you get the numbskulls like us to police one another by snitching on each other. And that guy Cass Sunstein was also a guy who said that they infiltrated 9/11 truth groups and other kind of activism movements in order to bring about their downfall or to seed them with disinformation. Now, obviously, we've been asked to stay alert for one another, which puts you in a state of watchfulness and mistrust and distrust of one another, and creates a kind of social distance. If you're always suspicious of each other, you think everyone else is going to be some kind of plague-carrying vermin, then obviously you are going to stay alert. But perhaps we need to stay alert into the way the media misleads us and makes us into marionettes that come out all across the world as though they're pulling our strings for the death of one man, when there's, as we know from the World Food Programme, 300,000 people per day are dying, according to David Beasley, who says that this year we were expecting to feed 135 million people, and that the lockdown measures have plunged those 300,000 people per day into starvation, which is 27 million over the 3 months. And he also says that 130 million more are going to be added to the people who are starving. Now, you might consider that those lives might also matter, but they're not being amplified by the media in the way that this man George Floyd's death has been amplified. Some of those lives will also be black, they'll be brown, and they'll be whatever colour you want to describe people who are... some people say yellow, don't they? But it's meant to be a little bit derogatory, so I'm loath to say that. But Chinese, Japanese, South Korean, whichever. There'll be people who are hungry, who are all the shades in between white and black. Now, I feel free to say that because I gather that you're not racist and I'm not racist, so we can say what we like about colours. So so there you are. So the World Food Programme is saying people are starving. Also in this country, I heard a doctor say on the television that he fears that 50,000 people will die if they don't get a cancer screening. But you don't get people out in the streets complaining about their lives and their lives mattering. We also know that the governments in this country and in America and in other countries like Belgium and other European countries, they sent people who got the coronavirus into old people's homes, so that it vastly inflated the numbers and it killed people in the manner of smallpox blankets. If we're going to talk about racism and colonialism and imperialism, the old smallpox blanket trick has been played on us again, where you send people with the disease into a care home, and it takes out the old people whose lives will also matter to the people close to them. That is where the bulk of the deaths have occurred from the COVID-19. Now, another hypocrisy that we've got here is that, and that's not to say, I mean, obviously I'm not pro-police brutality, I'm not pro-racism, but another hypocrisy we've got, the crowd is quite thin at this end of the street, but if you go further in, there's lots of people all pressed together, and not so long ago, the good officers of the law here were moving us away for protesting against the lockdown. But now they're leaving it be. So this mass protest is allowed because it serves whatever interests are publicised by the mainstream media, but ones which threaten the government and their mad lockdown schemes are allowed to continue unmolested. We had people filming us, which I've not seen here today. And there was only a dozen of us sitting on the grass, and they treated us like we were some kind of sinister outfit, and they came and made sure we were all sitting an appropriate distance apart, like the bullying of the state when you're trying to intimidate people. I mean, these guys are probably fine. I'll probably have a chat with them in a bit, but they're minding their own business, as am I. So what else have I got to say to you? So yeah, we're staying alert. So we're not staying safe if we're sending people into care homes to kill the other people in the care homes. There's also something that's coming up in the news recently where, or not in the news, in the alternative media, where you can find there's a suspicion that the coronavirus itself, the COVID-19, the SARS-CoV-2, whatever you want to call it, has been manufactured in a lab. Now, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm not saying it's true yet. There has been some studies done where that certain scientists are suggesting that's the case. There's others saying that they're not, such as Fauci is one of the ones saying that they're not. So take that as any way you want to. But they're saying that it could have been manufactured, and that would stand to reason because it takes out old people who are sick. It seems to be more. There's a suggestion that it's also aimed at black and brown people and people of ethnic minorities in this country. Obviously, if I went to a African country, I'd be the ethnic minority, but in this country, black and brown people are the ethnic minorities. So, you know, I worry that we're coming out protesting and with the best will in the world and all the benign intentions, but we're not necessarily engaging with the most threatening topics of the day that threaten all of us together. I mean, for me, if you're, even just numerically, so police brutality obviously in America, in the United States, kills people, black and white, and other on their official figures, they have other, whatever colour other is, or whatever brand of human or breed of human that's going to be. But we know that numerically that the lockdown measures are killing a lot more people than police brutality, and yet there isn't this kind of outpouring of protest and assembly on the streets and this vociferous response to that, is that it's just not occurring. There's something else I just had there in my mind that I could share with you. If you close hospitals to all the other ailments, the heart patients, the cancer patients, people with lung disease, everything has got kicked out of the hospitals, you are going to cause deaths. How many deaths, we don't know. There has been a spike in deaths that's not fully accounted for by the COVID-19, and those lives don't seem to matter. Now, that's not to say that you wouldn't have this process, but even this fills me with suspicion for the timing of it. So just when the lockdown starts to come to an end, just when that starts to happen, and we start to move back, or people might awaken, or might want to show their frustrations to the state, we have an incident that's amplified by the media and shared all over the world. And it turns out, as far as I can make out, I'm only one person with the internet, the policeman who committed the murder and George Floyd knew each other, and they worked for 18 months in a security firm. There's also some suggesting that Floyd was some kind of career criminal. I got that from Candace Owens, and also that he was an actor in porn movies, and that maybe the cop was as well. It finds up questions. I don't know what happened with that incident. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I just know that it's become a celebrated media issue, and it was very timely, and it was amplified. And then agents of the state went and smashed windows to be the permission givers. You know, like if you have a meeting where any context, maybe at work, and the boss says, "Oh yeah, so anyone got anything to say?" And everyone sits there and shuffles uncomfortably, and they all want to say something, and then somebody has to be the one who gets started. Psychologically, this is called the permission giver, and the permission giver was an agent appears to be a police officer. He was doxed, named by his ex-girlfriend, who said that was him, that was her mask, and he was there in his boots, and he smashed windows and started the riots in Minneapolis, or at least gave that first permission. Once the first window is smashed, the mobs often move with a sort of mob mentality. It's not an individual mentality. So in this. It's also the context as well. So once you get a mob on the streets after being locked down with all their frustrations, their job losses, their captivity, once you get that, then it's almost like a free-for-all. It's like Friday and Saturday night. Why Friday and Saturday nights are such carnage in this country is because people have been in work all week and they just want to let rip. Now, if you exaggerate that and you lock them up with absolutely no pressure valve release over the course of 6 or 7 weeks, and then you give them an excuse which they feel is morally justified, then they can go out in the streets and absolutely create all kinds of mayhem, which is exactly what we've seen. I mean, there's obviously a wider context to like economic upheavals even before lockdown, or economic sort of subjugation where the wealth is getting transferred, people getting poorer, or they are being manipulated by the media to think that they require commercial, what do you call them, commodities like iPhones and. I even saw people smashing windows to get some stale Dunkin' Donuts, so that doesn't completely explain the nonsense that went on in the streets. But anyway, here we are. Everyone. The major point here is that people are prepared to assemble for topics that the mainstream media tells them are worthwhile. And whilst we do not amplify the most relevant topics of our day, we will continue to be media marionettes who assemble in the street complaining about the death of one man who at the very best was a career criminal who played stupid games and eventually won a stupid prize and got a policeman on his neck. Now, that might sound harsh, but that's kind of the reality. Nobody thinks that police brutality is justified. Nobody thinks that you should be killing people based on the colour of their skin. But I don't think the people of Oxford are really going to change how the American police marshal their streets. But I think they can do something to save the lives of the people who are not getting the hospital treatment, who are being affected by lockdown measures around the world, and certainly who have been affected by lockdown measures in this country. And I've listed them different ways in which they will be affected and they can be killed. And those things are like denial of hospital treatment, being locked up, having their businesses closed, depression, economic fallout that then cuts supply chains to the most needy people in the world, and hundreds of thousands of them every day. 27 million in 3 months. It's a lot more than 500,000 in this country, or the 2.2 million that the Professor Lockdown, Neil Ferguson, said that we should lock down for. Anyway, before I ramble on too much, I see we're getting up to 12 minutes, I'll let you go. I think that's everything I had to say anyway. Take care.